This is the Jocko Underground Podcast, number 127, sitting here with Echo Charles. I wanted to tell you that extreme ownership does not in itself make problems go away. I wanted to tell you that.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Sometimes, incorrectly, people believe that when they take ownership, they're absolved of the wrongdoing. Mm-hmm. This is not the case. And it's actually kind of funny because we joked about this in the teams before I solidified and crystallized the idea and understood completely the idea of ownership. I'd seen it. You know, Delta Charlie taking ownership of everything, right? So you're seeing it, but you're not aware of it. You ever have somebody in Jiu Jitsu, they're doing something to you, and you know something's happening, and it's working, but then after the roll or 2 rolls or 3 rolls, you're like, hey, what are you doing when I'm over here? And they're like, oh, I'm pushing your hip out. And you're like, oh. Yeah. So eventually, you have that realization. Yeah. Well, but I was watching guys like Delta Charlie just taking ownership. I thought that was just kind of how he was winning, but I didn't really understand how he was winning. But in the teams, we would joke about it because even before I had that comprehension, guys would say like, come back for the debrief after doing an iteration of CQC, close quarters combat, or a immediate action drill out in the desert or something. Come back and, Tradette would say like, hey, who moved up on that berm over there? And a guy would be like, hey, that was my bust. And expecting like, and there kind of was like, if you acknowledged, hey, it was my bust, or oh, hey, I'll take the hit on that one. Hey, why'd you guys push down that hallway? Hey, I'll take the hit on that one. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, you understood you made a mistake, but you're almost thinking that now you're okay. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like maybe now you don't have to do a tire pull because that's what used to happen back in the day. You mess up, you do a tire pull, or you have to do a buddy carry, like something like this. So when you are thinking to yourself, hey, my bust, you then need to think about, okay, and like, what else? What are you going to do about it? How are you going to make sure that doesn't happen again? Do you understand the ramifications of your actions? Do you even understand what you messed up? Because sometimes people are like, oh, I just pushed down the hallway. And they're like, yeah, you separated all the forces. You caused a bunch of confusion. We had bad guys in between friendly forces, which is terrible. But they're like, oh, I'll take the hit on that one, and that's it. Yeah. So what? Do you truly understand the gravity of the situation? Because when you say, oh, that was my bust. Hey, I'll take ownership of that. Okay. Oh, you do? Do you understand the ramifications? So extreme ownership by itself doesn't make problems go away. It's merely the first step. You have to proceed. You have to apologize. You have to ask for forgiveness. You have to explain what corrective measures that you're going to take. And you still aren't necessarily absolved from repercussions or from consequences. So when we had the blue on blue in Ramadi, I took ownership, but my boss still could have said like, yeah, you're right, it was your fault, you're fired. He 100% could have said that. Yeah. And luckily I had a good relationship with my boss. Luckily I had a good understanding of what had happened, and I understood the ramifications, and I understood why it happened, and I understood how to prevent it from happening again. And I was able to explain and articulate those things to my boss and what new deconfliction methodologies we're going to put as standard operating procedures. So he got a comprehensive look like, all right, dude, like we can see that this guy understands. And it's almost preferred to have me in that position because I'm going to be hyper aware of it. Yeah. So I was able to keep my job. But if you make a mistake, but the point is, if you make a mistake, owning it will not make it go away. Here's an extreme example. You are drunk driving and you kill a kid on the street, right? So you go to the parents and you say, hey, look, this is my fault. I shouldn't have been drinking and driving. I got a little carried away at the party and I should have known better. This is 100% on me. That barely moves the ball forward at all. Like, it's better than saying, well, your kids shouldn't have been playing in the street, right? Yes. It's definitely better than that. But it's like 0.0000001 progress. Because you created a terrible situation. Yeah. And ownership is the first part of being able to somehow fundamentally move in a positive direction from that, because otherwise it's all downhill. Yeah. So does that solve anything? No. The parents aren't going to be like, oh, thank you so much for taking ownership. We really appreciate that. No, they're not even talking to you. They may never forgive you. You may never forgive yourself. So that's an extreme example. But it still applies with less extreme examples. Something happens, you have to own it. You have to figure out what the solution is. You have to figure out how you're going to prevent it from happening again. And then you have to implement that solution. So that's what we have to do. Now, this also brings to the forefront a little something that I wrote about in a book called Leadership Strategy and Tactics Field Manual, and that's preemptive ownership. Because one of the problems with extreme ownership is it's after the fact. Like, I already screwed up and now I'm going to take ownership and get it fixed. Well, preemptive ownership, you look at the situation and you know that if you mess it up, you're going to be the one that's totally responsible for it. And therefore, you go to a higher level of tenacity in making sure that there's no problems. So instead of, when your subordinate comes to you and says, I think we're going to do it this way, and you shrug your shoulders and go, might work. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can do that. Mm-hmm. But if you have preemptive ownership, you're like, hold on, let's talk through this. Yeah. Because you know that if it fails, you can't go, well, my subordinate made that call. No, I own this. I'm the overall person in charge. So if there's a problem, it's on me. Yeah. So keep that in mind, that ownership doesn't solve problems. Ownership doesn't absolve you from what you've created. It just gives you the control and the footing to find solutions and then move forward and implement them. But it's certainly not easy, and it doesn't even remotely guarantee that you won't face consequences, and it doesn't remotely guarantee that there won't be ramifications. The best you can hope for, if something really bad has happened because of a mistake that you've made, is that you can mitigate some of those things. But it's not going to mitigate all of them. But that certainly is better than the alternative. So just wanted to bring that up. Yeah. Extreme ownership. Hey, my bust. Hey, I'll take the hit on that one. Yeah. Can we move on to the next subject? It doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So I fell into this long time ago, before this outfit was developed. And I actually...
What was the scenario? Can you brief the scenario?
Yeah, fully. So I got in trouble. I was a bouncer. I got in trouble for taking money.
Damn.
At the front door to let someone skip the line. Okay. They still had to pay.
Is that legal or no?
Yeah, it's legal, but it was against the policy, the rules, or whatever. So, and this is how I got caught. So in the industry, and they have this in a lot of industries, where they'll have what's called secret shoppers. Have you heard of this?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically an undercover person, but it's for the sake of the establishment, just to kind of give you an accurate run of their experience, and they give you a full report. The owner of the restaurant or bar, in this case, they give you a full report. Like, this person at this time.
Did you get rolled up by the secret shopper?
Actually, I didn't get rolled up. My coworker got rolled up, and then he told on me too.
Ratted you out.
Yeah, because he
ratted you out for that scenario, or broadly speaking, like, well, Echo does that all the time.
I don't know exactly what he said.
Was Echo doing that all the time?
No, and I'll explain why. I'm sure. Actually,
you sure about that?
Sure. Thank you though for asking, but no. So what happened was that I was part of the report, but my name wasn't in it because they like the more particulars were done on this other guy. But I was in the report as doing it as well. My name wasn't in it. Yeah. And then my friend said, no, that was Echo who did it too. So whatever. The owner, the thing is, it even says in the report, oh yeah, we still had to pay cover. He just allowed us to skip the line. So I didn't steal from the club or nothing like that. It was just like, bro, it was freaking crowded. And they went to skip the line. They hooked me up. I hooked them up. They pay cover. The club gets their money. What's the difference? That was my justification anyway. And actually, it was correct, as it turns out. But either way, so I get busted. My coworker, we both get busted. I'm like, I feel terrible because I'm kind of the junior guy at this time, but I'm still at the front door. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get fired. So I go to my manager, any kind of chance I can. Man, I'm so sorry, like for putting you in this situation and all that, because we had kind of a cool relationship. So I keep saying. So I thought, hey, if I come in humble, like, hey, I'm so sorry for putting you on a personal level into that position. I was expecting him to be like, hey, don't worry about it, bro. You know, all good. So I was thinking that. I was thinking I'll just take responsibility and then I'm no longer in trouble.
Yeah.
So this has to work, you know, in this thing.
That's exactly the mindset I'm talking about.
Exactly right. And I remember this guy, and his name was Ashley Blake. That was my manager. And we're totally cool, of course. I thought he was going to be like, hey, don't worry. He goes, well, it's a tough position to be in. Like, and I was like, bruh, that was not the answer I wanted. So fuck, I was just scared. But, you know, a little, as it ended up, the other guy got fired. He didn't get fired, but they were going to fire him. Yeah. So he was like, oh, I quit. You know, I resigned. This isn't the place for me or whatever. But he was about to get fired. Yeah. And I did not. In fact, I got promoted very soon after. And they said, that's why they were like, hey, you're like a stand-up person and just in general, and you know, you're the kind of guy we want up here, whatever. And then as far as the system, the owner came back and was like, hey, actually, I don't really see that much wrong with what you did. In fact, let's get a system going where, hey, if people want to skip the line, they can pay you however much you want to charge for the system as long as I get my cover. That's what he said. And we got a little system going.
There you go. Yeah.
Handled it the right way, but so it did work. But in that moment, that was my mindset. Yeah. It was like, oh, I'll just say sorry. It is my fault. Hey, I totally did it, and then I'm no longer in trouble. Oh, yeah. And bro, I was in trouble for a while, you know. Yeah. And that's real.
That happens. It's for real. Like I used to tell guys like, hey, you can make a mistake that I can't help you with. Yeah. Like in the SEAL teams, they crack down on DUIs a lot. Yeah. And I was like, hey guys, if you get a DUI, I can't help you. Like, there's nothing I can do for you. You're just going to go before the man, and you're going to get whatever punishment he deems fit. There's no, you know, if you get into, someone gets a fight out in town, like, I can kind of help with that, you know. That is a little excerpt of what we are doing on the Jocko Underground podcast. So if you want to continue to listen, go to JockoUnderground.com and subscribe. And we're doing this to mitigate our reliance on external platforms so we are not subject to their control. And we're doing it so we can give you more control, more interaction, more direct connections, better communications with us, strengthen this legion of troopers that are in the game with us. So thank you. It's JockoUnderground.com. It costs $8.18 a month. And if you can't afford to support us, we can still support you. Just email assistance@JockoUnderground.com and we'll get you taken care of. Until then, we will see you mobilized underground.